budget process money to service your debt. So it kind of washes through like that. And it also, quite frankly, what will happen is it becomes part of your free cash, typically. It comes in during the year. It's not calculated in the budget process. And so the question is, where do we get our free cash from? We spend all of our money. All the departments spend all their money. Right. You get your free cash from usually underestimating local receipts, right, and from other reimbursements from the state that come in, and really no town that I know of budgets this money. It just comes in, it flushes out the free cash, and then you can use it for whatever purpose the town decides in the following year.
Yeah, can I just counter back to that, Jeff, just with a question? I understand that, but let's look at it on a big scale. If the town's borrowed $10 million to build a school, we're going to get 60% back. We're going to get $6 million back. That's not going to free cash.
No, it's going to be used. I'm just saying the process comes in this year, becomes
going to go right back
free cash next year.
Supposed to be borrowed. That's
it'll be used, and if you want to think of it this way, it'll be used
otherwise we spend
to offset the cost of the new debt.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But it's a revolving door, okay.
I don't know if this is going to help or hurt this argument, but I talked to our OPM, and way back, I forget when, maybe December or November, we were asking, the committee was asking this question about how much money is left of the $550,000. And at the end of one meeting, I gave Jeff Ritter the actual last good balance sheet from when Tammy was here and said, I think that this will help you calculate and figure out where the money is. And I have documentation from an emails going back and forth between Jeff Ritter and our OPM, and they, Jeff actually had the total dollar amount of $320,000 that was left, but here's an accounting from strategic, oh, hi, come on in, here's the guys you wanted to talk to a little while ago. Hello. Good. Well, okay. That's so great. Here you go. I just need one, but you can all have a pass them around and stuff on. So anyhow, so this is the last accounting, but all the monies had to go through our OPM. So at the top is the $550,000 that was voted, and then expenditures to date September 13th. You'll see what MSBA spending, and then the direct Templeton cost for the land search. So a total of $236,471 was expended, and the remaining balance, and he went on what his numbers were, not what Jeff said. I think Jeff had said that there was some legal bills inappropriately spent out of this account. So he went with the $313,529 that he knew should be left. And then down below on the bottom section of this page, he has professional, the OPM for the remainder of this and schematic is $75,000. The contract that I'm hoping that you'll sign tonight for the designer is $160,000. He has survey of $8,000, wetlands of $8,000, geotechnical of $28,000, geo-environmental of $8,000, traffic consultant $11,500, for a total of $298,500. He has a $15,000 contingency fee to come out with the $313,500. So he did what the committee had asked him to do under Kurt's direction, to say we have to live within this dollar amount to get the beginning part of the feasibility done, and to get the designer and the OPM under contract within that limit. No one thought we could do it, and we did. These people are working for much less. Senator Brewer, and the help of the work that he did on the land, DCAMP did on the land up front, I think is saving you some money. You you can help me out with this, Kirk, because I don't know that part. So this is to show you that this is the last accurate accounting we have of the monies that should be left. And it's based on, like I said, on the last treasurer and the last report that she had of the spending. And we didn't really do a whole lot of work from the time she left to now. We haven't been spending a lot of money. I think you have just a couple bills there, Jeff. So, like I said, I have some backup emails that, I'll share with somebody if they want them, but that's how we came to this dollar amount, how we came to the contract that I'm hoping you'll sign tonight, and then also how we figured out the additional monies that we're asking on the warrant to get through schematic design so that we can put a building project in front of the taxpayer.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The numbers from number 3 down, I absolutely agree with. The numbers for the OPM, for the designer, and for the other expenses. It's the numbers above that I'm concerned about, the 313. I believe that we spent more on the land search than
So,
$21,000.
I can get, Julie, I can get for you every invoice that this represents, and they were the only people that were invoicing us.
Right.
And I will talk to Jonathan Whitaker, and I'm sure his firm can
Right.
substantiate all of it for you.
I believe that's the cost from SBS, the 21,000, but I don't believe it included the cost that we had to do for advertising, central registry, all of those extra costs that we had to do numerous times looking for land. I don't think that was put into this calculation, but it came out of this pool of money.
Well, you don't know if it was or not, neither do I, based on
Right.
this sheet. So I think what we need to do is ask Jonathan for his breakdown of this, which I'd be happy to give to who's ever going to try to substantiate this, but these are the numbers we have. And all the money went through our OPM, so I have no reason to think that they're not accurate. So anyhow, I just gave you that, didn't want to spend too much time on it, but that's the numbers that you had asked me for with regard to the existing money. And then I was just hoping that we could get the warrant articles approved tonight for the elementary school as well as the biomass.
Yes.
Question really quick
Yes.
to Ruth. I had someone come into the office today and she asked about how they had voted at town meeting for this whole elementary school building committee and why we're gonna have to vote more for the schematic design. And I had no idea why, so I didn't know if you wanted to address that and maybe.
Because, and that's why we're gonna have, the OPM will be here tomorrow night as well at the Kiva, and why we're having the meetings on, the reason is that because it's taken so long, MSBA's rules have changed, they've added more procedures, and the costs have just gone up. And they're actually giving Templeton a huge break on the feasibility study. They've really reduced the work that the designer has to do to make Crow's Hill our preferred site. So, but all those level of details, it will be filmed, so it will be, hopefully we'll get it up on the cable, and they'll be available tomorrow night. But thank you for asking that question.
Hey, Jeff,
Yes.
through Ruth, can you make sure if they're in the Kiva, because I can't always make the meetings I work, but can you make sure that we can hear what's going on?
You can't, when it's filmed, you can't?
Not the last
When they
one.
filmed the last selectmen's meeting, you couldn't hear, I thought it was her computer, I went home and put it on mine, couldn't hear it on mine either, you had to run volume wide open, and you still couldn't tell what
Could
people
you,
were saying.
could you hear Do you ever watch the school committee
You
meetings?
can hear the school committee.
You can hear everything else.
Oh.
It was just, the mics weren't turned.
I think what
Just walk
happens
away.
is that Gary trained us to all talk like right in the mic, so I'll make sure that everybody does that tomorrow night.
So people who can't make the meeting can hear what's going
Yes,
on.
right, that's why we're having it there to be filmed, so that's great.
Thank you.
Is that Wednesday night?
Tuesday night is
Tomorrow.
elementary
Tuesday
school,
school,
and
okay.
Wednesday night is a biomass. And then Saturday, the 22nd, is, not a repeat, but another opportunity. So,
Does everybody still look this over, or have looked it over good enough?
I looked it over, yet.
Because I got a couple copies, so I don't know how I ended up with 4. So,
We're signing that
Good grief.
contract tonight?
We're
I'm
talking
hoping
about
to, I was
biomass for the
just
school
trying to get through the
project.
warrant articles.
hold on, what,
We're talking about the school project now. Did we get a letter back from our attorney? We sent a letter last week to our attorney about that school project.
the contract?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
What was his opinion?
It's good.
Are we making a motion? Should we be making a motion to sign the contract?
Let's see.
We signed a contract and this number is
Okay, we don't set on this.
Can we make a motion? I don't know what it's called, it's right here, it's here, and then our contract is on.
All right, this would be for the contract for design purposes. I would entertain a motion and to include how we will sign it.
I make a motion to sign or authorize the chair to sign the contract for the designer on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anything else? Julie?
I am voting no because I do not believe the 313,000 is remaining in the account, and that this will obligate the town by funding a contract that we don't have enough money for.
Doug?
Yeah, I wish we knew what the actual balance was.
We asked for it last week.
It's here. Why is this not? I don't understand. Look at this. This is September, we have one.
I think I'll vote no until we know what the actual balance is. I'm not against it, I just want to know that we can afford to pay it.
Okay. Diane?
Well, I'm voting yes, but I would like to make a note that on this sheet, I mean, it says the town reports a cash balance of $322,037.59 on September 10th. And the remaining balance that is calculated on Ruth's sheet is $313,529, which is less than what the town reported, and their total preferred schematic costs come in at $3,300. 13.5. And if these came from the OPM, why would they not be accurate? I'm a little confused about that, but those are just my comments, but I'm voting yes.
Okay. I'll vote yes, and the reason why is I think it's a little absurd we knew this was going to be on the agenda. I asked for these figures last week. If you recall, I supported sending the letter to the attorney. We didn't do our jobs apparently and find out how much is in the account, and now we're going to say no because Ms. Miller provided us with her figures. If we had any figures that we thought were contrary, we can't just say, oh, sorry, I want to know what these figures are. We asked for them last week, and we don't have them. So, I mean, we can use that as a defense to anything. I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to do. So I will vote yes, because I think that it's disingenuous to use as an excuse that we didn't do our jobs, because it's on camera in the Kiva. We asked for these figures to be given to us, and they were not given to us. So,
You're short money.
Well, they were.
but show us that. No,
Short
I asked for it, and nobody can give it to me.
$500,000 shot, two in a town.
It's
All right,
here.
all right.
That's how it escalates. Not
Hey,
$7,000.
Enough. With regards to the contract, the attorney from DW in Boston says the contract authorizes only the feasibility study phase. The amount for that phase is $160,000 as set forth on Exhibit A. And that's the amount that's here in total. I did try to go to the treasurer and find out a figure, and he was unable to provide me with satisfactory information. We do have some bills that have been paid that I don't think are accounted in on that sheet. January, I think they total around $4,400. And there's another bill, I think it's about $1,100. So we have about $5,500 or so that's outstanding, not shown on that sheet.
Well, those bills are based on contracts you signed, so the bills are reflected in the $75,000. That's part of their.
Well, I can't find, I wasn't being able to provide those copies of that stuff from the treasurer, so. I believe it was, I think it was $240 that was all I spent.
But it only obligates us to that, right? Not
So, where was it? Jeff said 213, 20. Bob, I'd like to ask you if you could look at that
I have a note, I'll try and find out
and then answer. I
an
think we
accurate number.
can get one now. I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to that 300. So, well, yeah, I'm confident of the money's there. So I will vote yes. Okay. And done.
So, the folks here, the people did want to ask them, but I don't know if you're pressed for time for the biomass.
The biomass boiler.
Yes, if you, I mean, they're here if you wanted to hear from them. If not, that, that's completely up to you.
Oh, I have a couple of questions, and because I won't be able to make the Wednesday night meeting.
All right, so Can I introduce Tim Singleton? Why don't you introduce yourself and the other folks with you? I've been talking about you all night. You're our owner's project manager, and he has all the answers that I don't have.
Yeah, I'm Tim Singleton. I work for Diversified Project Management. To my right is Frank Kennedy, Diversified Project Management. We're the OPMs for this project. And to his right is Ernie Vasquez from CGKB Architects. They are the designer for this project. If you like, I can give you a 2-minute blurb just to update you on where we're at. Sure. That might help you. Right. So what I did was I prepared a let's see, should have it here. I'll walk you through this real quick.
Thank you.
All right, so we're about 20% through the design of the project, and what the intent is to do is use this design to develop a total project budget. Right now, we're projecting the project to be about $3.5 million. And what I want to do is walk you through some minor details and also the impact to the towns, both towns, on a yearly basis, and just so that you understand where we're at. And I think that it's relatively easy to convince you that this project makes a lot of sense. So the first page right here, this is the site plan of the building. So the existing boiler is in the room adjacent to that little orange dot there. The wood chip fired boiler with the storage facility would sit into this little orange spot here, location. So we'd build a storage facility there. On the next page, just a little more a zoomed in view of that room. So again, this is what the existing boiler is now. The new wood chip fired boiler would go in the same location. The wood chip storage facility would be this box here, which is the orange box on the previous page. On the third page, the top elevation is the existing elevation from the rear of the building. This area right here is the existing oil-fired boiler room. After we build the storage facility, this is how it would basically look looking through the rear of the building, just to give you an idea of the height, that kind of thing. We're not at a point yet where we picked finishes or colors, but we're getting there pretty close. On the next 2 pages, Eastern Bank generated some documents based on $3.2 million. And I'll explain that real quick. So the total project budget that we estimate is 3.5. Currently, we have 2 grants that are approved, one for $250,000, one for $50,000. We have a third grant that's in the process of getting approved, but our money's not in hand yet, so we didn't count it. We're using $3.2 million, but as you probably know, the towns will still need to commit to $3.5 million to cover that bond for that project, even though you're getting money from the grants. So we're asking 3.5. We know the project cost will be 3.2, and it might be lower than that. So this sheet here is just giving a cost based on thousands of dollars of value of property in town, what it would cost. The next sheet here, this sheet here, basically we're showing a payback for the facility based on the savings from fuel. So the $234,000 is the cost per year that you would save on oil versus wood chips. We take the $3.2 million project cost, which is 3.5 minus the grants we have, and your simple payback is a little less than 14 years, which is not great, but it's pretty good. It's longer than the life of the boiler, or shorter than the life of the boiler, so that works for us. Additionally, there was a feasibility study done by Wilson Engineering about a year or so ago. So their calculation used $3.16 a gallon. Right now, we know it's more than that. I called a vendor in Gardner today, and it was $3.90, so I used that calculation. That's how I got to $234,000. I'm going kind of quick here, but you can ask questions later. And I speak fast, so if I speak too fast, say what, and I'll say it. So on the next page, I'm trying to detail what the actual cost of the project would be to the average taxpayer. So the average cost, the cost per year to the average taxpayer, and how it works out is the savings per year and the cost of the bond per year is almost the same number. It's a $206 difference So the impact of this project to the average taxpayer is net zero, which is a no-brainer at this point. Additionally, the boilers that you have now were installed in 1998, so they're 16 years old. So you can project in the next 3, 4, or 5 years from now, you're going to be replacing them. You're going to spend $500,000. So instead of basically spending nothing per year, you're going to spend $500,000. So as a cost impact to a taxpayer, just on money-wise, it makes sense to do this project. But additionally, there's other things that are involved that are guiding us to want to do this project now versus later. One is that the bond rate now is 4%, and you probably know the interest rates are going up quite a bit in the next couple of months, not just years. And you can expect in the next 3 or 4 years to be a whole lot more than 4%, and that's a whole lot more to the towns. Additionally, the cost of the fuel that you would spend, we have several vendors in the area that would supply wood chips, so the cost or the funds that you spend on fuel would stay in your local economy. And I'm losing track of what I was going to say, so I forget something again.
You're at a low point, I think everyone knows, in construction costs. This requires a building addition. So take advantage of the economy and build one when it's cheap. These are probably the best prices you'll see in 10 years.
And I think one of the questions that came up, we heard anyways, was concerned about operational costs. So the cost to operate the boilers you have right now for maintenance and whatever it might be is about $12,000 a year. The same for this. You don't require a full-time fireman. The boiler isn't large enough by EPA standards to do that. The maintenance that would occur would be less than 10 hours a week that should be done by folks that already work at the schools, and we handle it that way. Arnie, anything you want to add?
I think just the fact that you'd be getting off the oil is an important factor. You know, how volatile the oil prices are in the last 5, 10 years. Looking into the future, just getting off of that's a huge savings.
Yes, sir.
I just, if you could explain for people watching the effect of the electrostatic precipitator and how this burning will be different than if I burn wood pellets in my house.
Exactly. So, yes. So EPA requires us to install a filtering system, and the type of system that we use is dependent on how large the boiler is. So our boiler is not particularly large, so we're required to use a thing called an ESP, which is electrostatic precipitator. And what it does, it filters out 99.9% of particulates. So if you had a wood stove in your house, which I do, you look up the chimney and there's all kinds of stuff going out of it because it's not filtered. If you have a newer one, you've got a catalytic converter in it. It burns more, but you still have particulates going up. Ours would have basically zero. Additionally, we're required to filter CO2, NOx, a couple other things that are monitored by EPA, which are either metered or they're calculated in the design. So the environmental impact of the boiler is very, very sort of negligible, yes.
Got a couple questions. What about moisture in the chips and the storage of moist chips and the development of mold within the chips?
Yes.
How is that controlled, or you could guarantee that it's not going to be moist chips?
Yes. So two questions, I guess.
Yeah.
One, the boiler burns wood chips that are green. You don't need to be dried out first. So they cut a tree down, they chip it out, they dump it in our feed system, and we burn it. Additionally, well, that's Bill.
I'm right.
As Bill mentioned over at the other town meeting, was that our wood chip storage will be only a couple of days, and the trucks unload in our facility. They unload directly into our feeder system, which is constantly moving the chips. Nothing's staying still, and it's not sitting there very long, so gases aren't building up. And once we get down to a certain level, we add more chips to it. You won't see a 2 or 3 week stockpile of chips on the site.
So the boilers only run in the wintertime? You don't use the boiler for during the whole year?
It depends. We have a redundancy in a propane-fired boiler, but we require hot water throughout the year and heat through the shoulder seasons and the winter season. So it depends on the load. If the load is very small, we could use the propane heater, or we could burn wood chips throughout the year.
So in those lower less months, then the chips might stay in the thing longer?
No, it'd be empty. If we weren't using the wood chip fired boiler, you wouldn't have chips on site.
Okay. And what about the progression or the escalation of wood chip costs? I mean, this has been a technology that's been in play for some time. So what has been the trend of the cost escalation of chips over, say, the last 5 years? So we could project increases over the next 5.
So a couple of things. I completed the wood chip fired boiler at Cooley-Dixon Hospital in Northampton about 7 years ago. And they've got two wood chip fired boilers burning all the time. The cost has been pretty stagnant because there's quite a bit of supply out there, and there's not a whole lot of demand. Additionally, in New Hampshire and Vermont, actually in Maine too, there's quite a few schools that are doing what we're trying to do now, and the cost has remained pretty stagnant. It hasn't been a spike.
Good.
What's the anticipated lifespan on?
A boiler these days, if you built it 30, 40 years ago, they were longer, but now it's about 20 years.
How many tons is the storage facility going to be able to hold?
Top of my head, I don't know the answer to this question, but Ernie might.
Tons, I couldn't tell you.
It's I don't know the weight, but let me check, because I don't want to give you the wrong answer.
Is there ash generated from this?
Yes, so,
Add us to that.
so one of the things that we did, I'll use Cooley-Dickinson as an example, is that the ash that comes out of it, we've got to remove it, but it's used as fertilizer. So in our operational costs, we carried some money to dispose of it, but at Cooley, farmers use it for fertilizer. They come and take it, so the cost is zero. Actually, it's negative, because if farmers, instead of buying fertilizer, they use the ash.
When this project was starting to set up, I was under the impression this is the first one to be set up from the Mississippi. Now, who's telling us the truth? You said you set one up in Northampton.
I look like a liar.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
I can help.
The first one, yeah, you said the first one.
No, I didn't say, I said we were the first one to get a
You
I said we were the first one to get a USDA
No,
W bug
Mississippi.
grant.
Get the tape and you see it.
I said we were the first entity.
Listen,
Easy.
We were the first entity east of the Mississippi to get a USDA W bug grant to fund this. That's exactly what I said.
We haven't got the grant yet.
We have 2 grants.
Yes, we have. We have 2. There's 3. That's the 3rd one that isn't in hand yet. That's what's paying for the town meeting, is that grant.
Dick?
I have a few tech questions. On the rating for the boiler, what's the maximum output compared to what's there?
I need to give you the exact figures later. I don't want to give you the wrong.
Okay.
I'm not a designer. I'm a.
The other question I have, it says on the chart here they're going to use 1,042 tons of chips a year.
Okay.
Figuring 44,000 pounds in a trailer. How many trailers a year are we talking that are going to roll in and out of the school?
The feasibility study that was completed by Wilson Design, or engineering rather, last year, I believe it said 3 trucks or something like that.
3 a week.
It should be between 33 and 37 trucks, and that each truck will carry between 26 and 30 tons. That given, we know we have a lot of cars parked there, so our contingency for delivery would be all deliveries to be made before 7 o'clock in the morning. Makes sense,
That
right?
was my next question,
Yeah.
when they were going to bring them in. So if you're taking more of the parking lot away for the building, you've got less area.
It is interesting to add that, you know, this room would be about a truckload. We're gonna fill this room over 1,000 times. If you took the top off that desk and the area underneath it, all the ash would be contained within that area. So there's not a lot of ash. It burns it up, wet or not, there's not a lot of ash.
If you come to the community meeting on Wednesday, I'll bring more information, so I can answer your questions better.
Just one more thing. Has anybody been around the neighborhood to see any concerns the neighbors would have as far as
That's part of
the trucks coming, the smell and whatever?
That's part of our EPA process, and actually, Ernie, I can come back to that a little bit as far as the permitting with EPA with neighbor impact on noise and.
There are some Mass DEP requirements as far as noise for affecting the neighborhood. So right now, we're having monitors set up at the school so that we can take some baseline measurements to figure out what the noise levels are right now, so that we can use that information to later on figure out just how to keep the noise levels down. And there are legal requirements that you cannot pass a certain decibel level of change for the neighborhood. Plus, we also want to make sure we don't affect the learning environment in the schools.
Sure. So the storage facility for the chips, after you dump them in there, it's hands off, and You don't need a loader or anything to turn them?
There'd be some cleaning, that kind of thing, but for the most part, the system is operates by itself. You load your chips into a auger, basically, just it feeds it to the system, filters it, feeds it to the boiler.
Filters it or screens it?
Yes, actually both. So the
Okay,
chips
so you're screening it to a certain size?
Yeah, so you've got magnets pulling out metals, you've got you've got screeners making sure chips aren't too big. It goes through the system and feeds it into the boiler
Now,
itself.
how are you determining from the high fire to the low fire? So when you got a maximum output on it, and then all of a sudden the day warms up in the springtime, and then you're going down to a low fire.
It'll be boiler reset.
You what?
We'll have boiler reset, so it determines the outside temperature.
Yeah.
And then determines your firing rate.
But don't they lose their efficiency on, when they drop down to a lower fire? I mean, that's
Well,
what.
of course, they lose their efficiency, but they're still effective and economical and efficient. And they still burn completely the chip that's within. What makes our project interesting, and I think distinct amongst others, is our power curve is very close to our temperature outputs. We will not have an oversized boiler. I think you'll find a lot of the boilers around the area are more oversized than they need to be. Ours will not be. It'll be on high fire more than a lot of these boilers we visit. And that's a good thing.
We're good.
Now, is that, you using a top refractory system where you're keeping the heat down so that you're getting a more economical burn? Or how are you?
The biggest thing that separates a modern project is thermal storage. Well, 4,000 gallon thermal storage. So we'll eliminate boiler shock, we'll eliminate, all that thermal value will be static.
You're gonna be able to absorb that in your tank?
Yes, and that is helping in the development of these technologies, and it's something we look forward to.
So if you look in the, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine, there's a lot of schools right now that are using these type of systems, and we're communicating with them and visiting them to make sure, over the past 5-10 years when they've been installed, if there are issues, we can know about them so we can recover from those issues for our project. So far,
Yeah, well, there was a lot of stuff done with biomass, using pellets. And now that originally the cost of pellets were what, $60 a ton? And now they're up to what, 220 or 120 or whatever? All right, $250 a ton. And now they're starting, also, we got a trial here in the works, that these wood chip boilers are starting to be designed for household use. They're just coming in now, and that's what they really want to do with them. Now, when all of this stuff is put together, it's going to be just like everything else. The price, you're basing your price on your wood chips is here. But I don't think that price is going to stay there. I think that price is going to go just like that. And propane is going to get worse. If you look at the national average propane.
I can't promise the prices of anything, but I know that oil is going to go up. That much I do know.
Well, unless we can get the farmers to
I
produce
think you
it.
just answered the question. I'm aware of some communities that are doing pellet boilers and some wood chip. What's the relative, what's the difference?
A couple of things.
Why'd you choose chips?
Cost of pellets is a lot more than wood chips.
The cost of processing isn't effective. In other words, you've got to keep the biomass up, then you've got to squeeze it, and then you've got to press it into a chip. You've got to pay for all that.
Deliver it twice.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I just have one question, and I think Bill can answer it. The location where the storage will be for the pellets, that's an addition.
Yes.
And it goes out into the parking lot.
Yes.
Is it near any of the monitoring wells that are there? I believe they're still there.
We won't have to eliminate one monitoring well, and I'm kind of relieved, because I'm thinking like you are, if the DEP comes back and demands some results, which I don't think they will, Julie, but it's not good policy to eliminate any of those wells.
Right.
As you know, we eliminated the vacuum house, but we can replicate that. We can put it right back together.
So that won't, it's just one monitoring well that would need to?
There's about 6 of them out there, I believe.
Right, I know, but within the area where the
There's one that's
pellets
close,
storage.
but we shouldn't
Okay.
bother.
Dave?
just have one more question about if we're gonna get away from using oil, and we have oil tanks in the ground, will they immediately have to be dug up and taken out?
We are, as part of this project, we're removing it.
Oh, good.
It's in our way.
They'll be empty.
Well, I have an oil fire boiler in the house, so I might make something on it.
Maybe not once, it's in the bottom of them tanks.
At the meeting on Wednesday night, will you have the, we were given a sheet, and I guess it wasn't up to date. Some of the figures that we were given, that variables that were given, was that it was based on a propane price of $1.40 per gallon.
That was probably way back with Wilson Engineering.
So what, we didn't include any propane.
Yeah, I'll give it to you, I've got a couple copies of it.
I didn't include any propane calculations on our sheet here. I only took the information from Wilson Engineering. I think it's about a year old, give or take. And I just basically made it more current based on our blending rate, cost of fuel, wood chips, that kind of thing.
Okay, but the propane is going to be an expense.
15% of our load.
You basically only use it for hot water in summer, in the non-heating season.
But we can get those costs.
Yes.
Are all your augers and everything set up and redundant? So in other words, you have two motors and you're gonna run two separate augers, or you're gonna have a separate backup system?
It'll just be one auger. The reason is they're highly reliable, easily repairable, and when you add two, you're at an expense. And we need to watch the line on expenses on this job. And every person standing up here, sitting up here, is aware of that, aware of our need to keep what we need essential. Essential will guide this project. So.
One thing we have learned from other projects is that the wood chip fired boiler system, it's basically simple. It's not, so things will break. But versus an oil fired boiler, this is much simpler. It's easier to repair.
What is the warranty on these now? We
haven't bought one yet. So the standard contract warranty for construction is a year, but there'll be more for materials, but we haven't generated the bid specifications yet. We haven't determined that yet.
You people maintain them, or they have to get their own maintenance system?
The maintenance for the material, there's a couple of levels, but most of the daily maintenance will be done by the school. It's just cleaning, nothing major.
I was just wondering, where do you get the product that we use to burn in these furnaces that you're talking about, the trees?
Yeah, so we've contacted currently 3 landscapers in the immediate area.
I can't hear you.
We've contacted 3 landscapers in the areas that would supply wood chips to for the boiler, but there's plenty others in the area that will do the same. That's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, where do you get the trees?
With the landscapers consistently chip wood.
Yeah, but every time you cut down a tree, that means my lifespan, the human race is going to be decreased, okay, because of the leaves that purify the air, etc. I was just wondering, because I'm questioning this, because people are cutting down the trees and we're going to suffer. And the other thing is, our town, I should say not our town, this area, we had a shortage this past week of wood pellets. I don't know if anybody knows it or not.
These are chips, though, Carol.
Huh?
These are wood chips.
But wood is wood, you know what I mean? You still make it, this guy out here is mashing up the trees, you know, the pellets out here, to make the wood pellets and the wood shavings or sawdust. Is that what your product is, sawdust-like material?
I'll try to help you in this regard. The #1 entity that's sponsoring this project that got us on the road is USDA Forestry Service, Lou McCreary up in Princeton, West Virginia. What we have that's unique to our area is a 4-to-1 forestry recovery rate. That means for every tree we cut, we grow 4.
It
And
takes
that's
30, 40 years for a tree to grow.
That's true, ma'am. The other thing that's really interesting about this area isn't just the abundance of biomass, but it's the fact that we only have 25% of our forest as a growth potential under management. If you take Maine, they're 90% managed. They grow a lot of trees. Germany, 99%. There's countries and companies that do really more than we are. And part of this endeavor is to help promote good forestry management. Now the trees, most of the trees you'll see that go into our biomass system will be from thinning operations, where we go into a forest that hasn't been touched for 40 years and they cull out the biomass of the trees that aren't beneficial. And a lot of it is stuff that couldn't be used for furniture or otherwise. It's good for burning. So if that helps.
I think that to lead up, I think you might be thinking that landscapers would go cut down a tree and ship it to make money by its display. The wood chips we're getting are basically a waste. They're not, landscapers aren't making enough money to go cut trees down and ship them to supply fuel.
You know, you do a lot of clear cutting, and
It's not,
I'm two places. Down my street that I live on, someone clear cutted their, not clear, they took down trees. And that means that there's less green stuff to make oxygen. That's what I'm concerned about. I know what I'm going after, but I just wanted to know where you're going to be getting your product, because there was a shortage in this area for people who burn wood chips, which is basically the same thing that you guys are wood pellets. So apparently there could be a shortage of that also due to some natural causes. Just like our oil. But we're in Utah right now, gang, we're going to get a lot of oil from there.
Just as one note of interest, I spoke with the people at the Mount Wachusett Community College, and they have a wood chip fired furnace, and they pay $58 a ton. And the town of Athol has a wood chip fired furnace, I think they put it in the late 90s, and they can only store 24 ton, and they pay $68 a ton for chips. And I'm going down tomorrow, I'm going to visit both of those sites. One is kind of old, the other one is 2002. And I hope to go look at another one in a couple of weeks. That newer one. So you'll have all this stuff again on Wednesday at the Kiva at 7, and then again on the 22nd.
On the 22nd at 11.
All right. Anyone else have anything else?
Jeff, what's the name of the burner they're using? Excuse me.
the manufacturer hasn't been determined yet. We will design based on a design by Wilson Engineering and from RDJ, our project engineer. Once we go out to bid, the manufacturer is based on Massachusetts procurement laws. So we can only spec the requirements. We can't say which one we're going to buy. It's a little bit process.
There's another question. We were told here last week you had to know now so we could buy the boiler.
Know what?
They wanted money so they could buy the boiler. We gotta have money so we can buy this boiler. Get the tape and you'll see it. The statement was said, we need this so we can buy the boiler right now. Get the tape, it should be on the tape.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
No, I'm not hearing things. It was said we needed the money to buy the boiler now. And somebody said the boiler be a year old.
All right, these gentlemen are just here for informational purposes. They're not here for box position. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for fitting us in.
Excuse me, Mr. Ross, secure the funds.
The next, that's next.
We're gonna, well, we're gonna get together, so we're gonna go through the warrant probably as we do.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
I've never done that, so I can't say.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's next, so if you're all done with your, right, that's the vote, in the vote on the warrant, which those are the things.
So you voted on that articles, because the board of selectmen was recommended by us, all the ones that say board of selectmen, you voted those particular articles, and then we gotta vote the whole warrant and say this is the warrant, and then it gets signed. But we still have to vote to post the whole warrant, because we all signed it. What's his name?
All right, the next item is the vote on the articles for the special town meeting on March 29th. There are 5 articles from the Board of Selectmen, 2 from the school committee, 1 from the fire chief, and 1 from the advisory board.
Chairman, if I could bring the board up to date on some developments today having to do with, I think, our first 3 articles. We had a visit from Deb Wagner, who is our representative at the Department of Revenue from the Springfield office, and she was here from 9:30 until 2:30 this afternoon. Spent some time with the financial management people. I met with her for a good long time, and among other things, they discovered that we need to make some adjustments in the shortfall or deficit that we have for fiscal 214. And to my surprise, these adjustments are in the town's favor. Approximately $127,000 can be taken off the $505,000 as a result of several items that she informed me of. One having to do with the debt exclusion form that wasn't filled out properly. Also cherry sheet offsets, another $7,900, and sewer enterprise fund, another $49,000. So we don't know that these are the only adjustments at this time, but that's certainly favorable for the town. So in our calculation for resolving the shortfall for the current year, that's good news. Secondly, we still have not closed out fiscal 13. The accountant is working every day. He worked over the weekend. It has taken longer than he has expected. It is hopeful that it can be done soon, but I know that message was conveyed to the board 10 days ago as well. But in talking with Deb and with Fred and Matt Angel, they really are close. That's important because at the end of the month for the special town meeting, we will need to have our free cash certified. So as soon as they can close out fiscal 13, the Department of Revenue will certify an amount of free cash. I wouldn't expect that the amount of free cash that is certified would cover the shortfall. Although I don't know that for certain. Accountants are very reluctant to talk about free cash when they haven't completed all the work. But as I was told when I came here, Ms. Wagner confirmed that last year the free cash was in the range of $194,000. But because the record keeping was not up to their standard, they said we're only going to certify $100,000 for the current year. And so to start out the free cash calculation, we've got about $94,000 right off the top. And whatever amount we're going to see for 2013. So we don't know the free cash number at this point either. And There's a third problem that was discovered again today. The town at the annual meeting last year voted to transfer some retained earnings in the sewer department, $170,000. Retained earnings being the equivalent of free cash in the sewer department. She pointed out to me that that vote was not proper because retained earnings in the sewer department were not certified until June 19th. So voting those funds in May wasn't acceptable to the DOR, and that we're going to have to do that again. So she suggested that it be done at this special meeting. When I was informed of it, it was past noon time, which was our deadline for the warrant. So you don't see an article on this warrant. I know it gets very complicated. And so what I'm going to suggest to the board is that I think we have to do this. We do have some time until you sign the warrant. Apparently we're going to sign on Thursday. If the board would vote to reopen the warrant for this one article, I think that would be proper procedure. And then I will add it to the warrant articles that you have here. But given that it's past the deadline and the Department of Revenue is very insistent on correct procedure, I think we need to do it that way. And she didn't want us to delay this. I suggested we delay it until the annual town meeting. She said, no, you need to do it for the 29th. So I think the only way that we can do this according to proper procedure is for the board to vote to reopen the warrant, maybe vote to reopen the warrant tonight and close it tomorrow at this time, or something along those lines. And that way I'll be able to insert this additional article. This is procedural, nothing substantive about this, but we're going to require that it be done.
It has been done. It was done last year, I think.
That's what I was going to say, and this board's broken bylaws before, so I can't, so I'm not saying that we necessarily shouldn't do it,
Well,
but.
you did this last year.
Well, no, well, we had to, well, kind of, yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
Not kind of.
Well, yeah.
We did.
So
I'm a lawyer, I can come up with a kind
this
of
is
answer.
something
No,
that she didn't know.
Yeah, okay, so.
No, but she asked me to print out, I was asked to print out all the minutes of all the certified stuff from all the town meetings. And she sat there for about an hour and a half and went through all the minutes of all the town meetings. But you've actually done this and she didn't pick that up?
Well, my question is regarding, or not, it's not a breaking of the state law, the breaking of the bylaw that says that once we open a warrant, it has to be open for 2 weeks. So, I mean, is that?
I think the vote, well, I see what you're saying. It must be open for 2 weeks.
Right, I know not under state law, as long as it's, 2 weeks ahead before the scheduled meeting, we're okay, but.
Right, but we have done it before.
Oh, right, I'm not saying that we should, I'm
I'm
just.
not saying we should
yeah.
either, but.
Do it right now.
Do it.
Bunch of law
No, as a matter of fact, it was.
So those are the three areas that have an impact on Articles 1, 2, and 3. Because we don't know how much revenue we need. And we don't know how much will be available in free cash if the town chooses to use free cash. And so that has an impact on Article 1, 2, and 3. I mean, one of the approaches to this might very well be to make that article, make it one article